So for the claim completion, as Courtney mentioned, she's been with the state for a couple of years now, and CEP is her baby. She is Queen CEP. I started about a year ago, and I'm maybe Princess CEP. So they're kind of training me to help with this. But I have been checking all of the claims, every single SFA that was participating in CEP this year, every claim that came through. Courtney checked them last year, and she was doing them manually. And by manually, I kid you not, she was printing those claims and checking them by hand. Not every month. She couldn't do it every month. She would bring them with her on review and try to do them every month. And when I started, she told me what she was doing, and I said, well, there's a spreadsheet for that I could probably put together for you. So that's the way that we've been able to keep up and actually check on them, because last year it was rounding to 1 decimal, now we're rounding to 2 decimals, and you think that it wouldn't be a big difference, like she said, but it does make this, 2, 3, 4 meals sometimes between free and paid. So each month I go in and I'm double checking to make sure. So if you've gotten an email from me that said, some of your numbers were off, I try to tell you how to correct it. And I also supplied another simpler worksheet for those of you who want to double check your numbers before you hit submit on the site. We would like to eventually have a system that double checks it for us. Right now, if you're doing a claim, you're going to see an error at times if your meals are exceeding your eligibles. Does that sound familiar? You might see little red asterisks. So that is built into our system, but we don't have anything built in for CEP. And what we need to remember for claims for CEP, it's math. It is all math. We do not need a status associated with those students anymore. So some people will call and say, but I have 50 reduced students. I don't care. If they're reduced in your system, yes, she knows who I'm talking about. I don't care if they're reduced in your system. That doesn't matter anymore because they're all eating free. So we just need total numbers, and we need to do some math to figure out what we put into the claim. So that's what we're going to go over in this presentation. Okay. Okay, so what we use at the beginning of the school year, we'll submit everything and we will confirm what we'll be doing for 17-18 by June 30th. So once August rolls around and everyone's back in school, I'm going to be updating my current spreadsheet with new claiming percentages. So let's say you've reestablished, or let's say we've got 15 more SFAs that are participating in CEP. I'm going to need to update those things. So it's all about the math. We're looking at those total identified students, getting that number as big as we can so that we get our claiming percentage a little bit higher if we can. And we're total enrolled students. All of that is based off of the April data, so we can't magically get another DC run in the summer and go, oh, my numbers are better. It's all from that March 31st, April 3rd, because of the weekend information that Courtney was talking about earlier. So if you take the number of identified students, you divide by your total enrollment, you're going to get your percentage of identified students. Then you use that multiplier 1.6, which isn't changing anytime soon, to get what your claiming percentage is. So we get a little bit confused about the difference between those two things. It's nice to know what our identified student percentage is, but it's different than our claiming percentage. So on your worksheet, you'll see 2 separate percentages. We're looking at the claiming one, the higher one, because we're multiplying it times 1.6. We can then subtract out and figure out what your paid percentage is. I think that's a little confusing. I'd rather go with the free percentage, calculate what my free eligibles are, what my free meals are, and then just subtract out to get the difference for the paid. That way you're not dealing with 2 different percentages and 2 different decimals, all that stuff. So always remember 75.88, we cannot round to 75.9 and use that as a claiming. We need to stick with something like 75.88. If you're 100, then that's great. Your lives are so much easier. If you're 69.47, it gets a little trickier. But always keep those 2 decimal places, and we'll talk about how we then round, because we can't have half meals or half students. So once we use that decimal, we need to round from there too. So always remember 75.88, we cannot round to 75.9 and use that as a claiming. We need to stick with something like 75.88. If you're 100, then that's great. Your lives are so much easier. If you're 69.47, it gets a little trickier. But always keep those 2 decimal places, and we'll talk about how we then round, because we can't have half meals or half students. So once we use that decimal, we need to round from there too. So in that CEP worksheet, once everything is confirmed for 17-18, you will go to that review tab. You've said, this is what I'm doing for next year. This is my claiming percentage for next year. That's where you will find that. That's where I'm going to find it when I'm checking the claims next year as well. So I'm going to go based on whatever the system tells me. You're going to find it under the calculated ISP that tells you that the 1.6 is also built in. So for this example, we've got a system-wide CEP claiming percentage of 95.98. 95.98 of our meals will be claimed as free. The remainder will be paid. All of that comes from that worksheet. So I'm going to go back and forth just so I can show y'all. But if I log into the website, and I'm picking on West Feliciana because I'm working with her next week, I've logged in. I'm clicking my green school food service button. I'm going to the left where it says CEP participation and worksheet. If I want to know what my current claiming percentage is, under the home button down here where it says 16-17, I can go to view, and lo and behold, at the very bottom, we're not participating right now, that's why it's left. But this is where that number would be your claiming percentage. She does not qualify based on previous numbers. Do you have a question? Okay. So we're looking for this example, West Feliciana, we're looking at what her new numbers are and trying to determine if she wants to elect to go into CEP. But I'm just using this as an example to show you can go into the system, scroll to the bottom of the page, and confirm this is my current claiming percentage.
Your calculated ISP.
Calculated ISP, the one that says 1.6 modifier at the bottom.
If your entire district is, would that be at 100%?
If your entire district is CEP, is that your question?
Yes.
If your entire district is CEP, it's going to tell you at the bottom system-wide total, and it'll list, it'll say 100% if it's claiming at 100%. If you're broken out into clusters, you would see clusters here at the bottom. It would tell you what each of your cluster claiming percentages are. Okay. So when we are going to enter our claim, we have gone into the website. We've confirmed what our CEP percentage is, claiming percentage. It's all math. So we need to do some math on our end before we go into the claim to do these things, because we're multiplying and using that claim. We'll get into what that looks like. This is a reminder that you will have no reduced eligibles and 0 reduced meals. So even if you pull a report with MCS or any of the other systems you use, and MCS says, but I have 50 students that are reduced, doesn't matter at that point. It's nice for the systems to be able to correctly or tell you what your CEP numbers are, but more times than not, they're messing something up. Because they're wanting to label the kids. And especially if you don't have that correct at the very beginning of the school year, it can kind of set things off. You got to make sure all those kids are labeled as free, and then still they're not necessarily have the correct claiming percentage in the system. So it kind of gets tricky to rely on whatever your reports are telling you. And that's generally where I get, when I'm checking claims, where I see the most errors. Well, my system said, my report said, that's not always reliable because of that 2 decimal rule that maybe the system is rounding up, or because it's labeling some students as reduced and it doesn't know how to add them all together and then do the math to figure out what the numbers should be. So don't rely too heavily on whatever your system printouts are telling you, basically. That's what I'm saying. No reduced meals or eligibles. So when you get to the claim, I'm going to back out again. I don't want to lose anybody. Show you where the claim section is. So green, school food service tab, left bar. And you go to claims and view claims. You're going to go in and actually select, oh, that's not the right one, site by site. You're going to click the site button. You're going to put in your paid eligibility, your free eligibility, your total enrollment. It calculates your total meals claimed. So you're not putting that number in, but you need to put in your free meals and your paid meals for CEP. So that's where that math before you go into this is really helpful.
So,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
I'll write down my question.
No, you guys.
Okay. CEP will upload this information from our software system. So you're saying, no, you can't do that anymore because it's
You can do that. You're going to need to double check it though
Double check it,
before you
okay.
submit. Because the problem that we're finding is that there's a rounding error or somehow reduced is getting included in there, and our system is not to the point yet where it can double check that and say, she's CEP, why they're reduced. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that. And then it gets submitted, and then it gets paid, and then you get an email from me, and I say,
I'm thinking that we can put a case in to MCS, and the more cases we put, usually and they're probably already working on it.
Right.
They're working on it.
there's probably a fix. So she was just saying we could probably do something with MCS or whatever systems you use. There's probably a fix for it. But it kind of, if you've been on review this past year and maybe you had a finding about a non-discrimination statement not being updated, MCS, all of the systems for those printouts, those letters, they don't update that for you. You've got to do that. So there's miscommunication on what the schools have to update and what MCS updates, and so the reports could very well do this and do it accurately. It's just a matter of probably us going in and putting in those correct numbers and making sure that it's matching. Okay. So your claiming percentage is applied to both your total meals and your total eligibles for your sites that are participating. If you're partial, you're going to need to leave those sites that are still doing applications. They need labels. They need to be labeled as free, reduced, paid. You need to know which meal was free and reduced and paid. But for the CEP sites, you just need total numbers. Okay, so here's your example. Well, one example. Your total enrollment is always going to be the highest enrollment at that site for the month. Highest enrollment. You have that number. Then you go to your site and you say, what is the total lunch count for that month? Total breakfast count for that month. Those are the three numbers you need. So if you want to print your report from MCS, I'm picking on MCS, but any of your systems, you can print them, but that's what you're looking for is your total meal, your total lunch meals, and your total breakfast meals, and your highest enrollment, which is your total enrollment that you'll be using for the claim. So it doesn't matter what they're labeled as on that report if they're still labeled.
And you're gonna put them,
You're not going to do it.
number one or number two?
You're not putting them in there yet. We're still looking at step one. Well, we're kind of going out of steps. I'm telling you the totals that you're needing. So if you're multiplying the highest number of your enrolled students, so that highest enrollment for that one site, you're multiplying it times your claiming percentage, because that's going to give you the free students. And then you're subtracting out to get your paid students. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. This might be easier when it's broken down.
There, yeah, that is, okay.
Sorry, I did skip ahead. My apologies. So 95.98% is that system-wide claiming percentage for this example SFA. So 91's highest enrollment, multiply it times 95.98. 87.34 students were free. We don't have 0.34 students.
Right.
We're rounding based on basic one decimal rounding. So 87.34 is 87. If it said 87.49, it would still be 87. Okay, then that's again, sometimes our math, we just, oh yeah, that's close. Around that first one and then around the next one. Nope, go by that first decimal for rounding to the whole numbers. And you're subtracting out in the 87 from 91, you've got 4 paid students eligibles for that month. So you're going to put in 4 and 87 and 91, everything should match. That is something that we kind of sort of check. Mostly worried about the meal counts because that's where the reimbursement is, but we do want to make sure that the eligibles are correct too, just for reporting purposes, right? So if you got an email from me that said, oh, your eligibles are off by 1, I know that's a pain, but to have the accurate numbers, so if USDA does come and ask for all of these reports and all that information, we want to make sure it's correct in the system. So here we get to meals, and as I mentioned when I showed you the claim on the live website, total meals, that's not something that we enter. It's going to calculate for us. So you're getting your total meals from your system. If you have 1,024 total lunch meals for this one site, you're going to multiply it by that 95.98 to get the current, for that month, free meals. So 982.83 rounds to 983 free meals. The remainder, so we subtract out $41 goes into paid. It'll add it up for you. It should add up to that original $10.24. It's all math, our favorite subject. And not just math and percentages. Even better. Just wait though. I'm gonna show you this nice little tool that I developed that will help you. So once all of that information is put in, it's going to populate into that summary, so that original page that shows up when you click on the claim. So you're going site by site with what 3 pieces of information? Your total enrollment, your highest enrollment for that site for the month, your total lunch counts, and your total breakfast counts. You're doing the math before you even come to your claim, or you could be doing it at the same time. If you've got dual monitors, that's cool. I could not live without dual monitors. So, and then you can put it in as you're calculating it, back and forth. So here is the claim worksheet. It's hard to read up here. I'm going to pull it up in a second, but it is a tool that we developed this past school year that can help you double check those numbers before you put it in. So if I were in your shoes, each month I would print my stuff from whatever system I'm using, my reports. I would get those highest numbers or those numbers for each site, and I would go to this Excel worksheet, this tool, put them all in, and then pull up my claim, and from this tool, put the numbers in. And people ask me, well, what is right, the system or my tool, or the tool that you sent me? My tool's right. It's rounding right, because my tool's not worried about labels and where the free and reduced going. We're just looking at totals. It's just doing the math for us. You could always double check it by hand. Spot check a few of them and make sure that my tool's right.
So how do we get this?
I'm going to email it to you.
She had to.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll actually get it on our website, but for now I've been emailing it to. So if you've had a few issues with your claims in this last school year, you probably already got it emailed to you. But what you would do is simply go in, you put that that free claiming percentage that you have on your CEP worksheet, and you want to enter it as a decimal, so 4 decimal spots. So in my example, it says 0.9475. If it helps you to put the sites in, if you're really, really large, go ahead and put all your site names in there, schools' names. And then all you need is your total, highest enrollment, total lunch, total breakfast. So let's say I've got 200, and of course my mouse won't work when I want it to. 200 highest enrollment at Jennifer's school. There we go. If I can spell. So, I don't know. See how it says 0 free and all of them are paid? That's a red flag. I didn't put in my claiming percentage. I'm going to claim at 89.57%. I didn't get to just make that up either, so that's what my CEP worksheet's telling me. 89. Why am I having trouble here? There we go. 8975. Does it for me. I don't let you click on those because we tend to get finger happy when we're in Excel. We accidentally delete formulas. And that's what's calculating these numbers. And then you'll get a panic. Oh no, it says 0 now. So that's the reason why it just skips over the yellow. The yellow columns are the ones that you need to then put into your claim. So 89.75% of 200 means that I've got 180 free eligibles and 21. Look at me using an example and it's not adding up correctly. Awesome. That would be about right. Here we go. That's when we check it by hand and see where is the rounding happening. So 205 highest enrollment, 184 free, 21 paid. And that equals 205. And you would put those numbers in. If you have 4,705 meals, that one adds up, thank goodness. Not looking like a fool. 4,705 lunch meals, it's going to calculate 4223 free, 482 paid. Put that into your spreadsheet or into your claim, and you're good to go. Sometimes if that rounding, so the reason why there was an error there, the rounding, if it gets too specific, Excel can kind of freak out and not know what it's doing. You can double check those. I can tell you, since I've been checking all of these claims for the last year, I think there's been one meal at one school on 1 month that I've had this issue of, why are my numbers not matching up, and I've had to check it manually. So for the most part, when you're putting those in, you should be good to go and you should not be worried about it. And then on the back end, when you're in the claim, you can go ahead and double check when you put those two, the free and the paid in there, it should add up to what your original number is telling you from your printout. So just double check it that way too as you're going through. If you're 100% free claiming, oh, you're easy. All you gotta do is go in. But see, I say, ooh, you're easy. Sometimes it still gets messed up. You're going to be going in and putting all 626 of your total highest enrollment into the free category. You should have 0 reduced and 0 paid. These two numbers, your free eligibility and your total enrollment, if you're 100%, must match.
Yeah, that's what.
And that's where you're getting emails from me too. That maybe your highest enrollment was 626, but for whatever reason you wanted to put 616 free eligibles in there. I don't know why. Whatever your total enrollment is, your highest enrollment needs to be what your free eligibles say. So just match those up. And then when you get to the meal part, you would just put all of your meals in this free category. So when I'm checking that claim, I'm going to the summary part at the beginning. And I'm looking to make sure that where it says reduced and paid next to total meals claimed over here, zeros all the way down until I get to the bottom and I see zeros and zeros and we're good. I was in a rather large system last month, I believe it was March, and I'm scrolling. And rather large, we can probably guess which one it is. There's like 80 sites. Scrolling, and at the very bottom it's got all zeros and has 1 paid meal. It's like, that's not right. But again, that's shooting yourselves in the foot because you've claimed 1 extra meal as paid rather than free. But it does send up an alarm to us. I'm like, oh, you're 100% claiming. All of those should be over. So I sent a little email and said, if you want to correct it, by all means. Sometimes something so minor doesn't make up the money it's paid to go in and correct it. It's way less way more than what it would be if you wanted to get that reimbursement back. But we do. If it's within the 60-day window, I'm going to let you know. And I do try to check them far ahead of time. I'm going to let you know if there's something wrong with the claim and that you can get more money out of it. So you need to go in and correct it. Or if you need to pay us back money, if you've done too many free meals, then yeah, I'm going to let you know too. So thinking about the definitions, this is a nice little short and sweet PowerPoint. We'll probably post, we used to do one big CEP PowerPoint presentation. I'm sure we're going to post all 4 of these. That way you don't have to scroll through everything if you just want to look at what's happening. What do I do for claims, step by step? So just to remember that the free eligibility is the maximum number of free eligible students on any given day for that claim of that month. So doing that math. And then the paid is just the difference between that total highest number and your free. It also goes into total attendance and school days, but we know if you're familiar with claims, you know what those numbers mean. Questions? That was fast. Does it make sense? Okay. I know I gave a lousy example because my numbers didn't add up in the first thing that I did, but generally speaking, my spreadsheet is right. Yes, ma'am.